Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video at Middle School Readiness. Today we have Officer Kevin Koch with the Marble Falls Police Department, and we are going to be talking with him about his experience as a police officer, how he got into it, his likes and dislikes, the ins and outs of being a police officer. Make sure to go check out the other video that we interviewed him about his military experience in the Army. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video at Middle School Readiness. Today we have a police officer with us, and we're going to be talking to him about his experience as a police officer. So without further ado, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Officer Koch. I work for the Marble Falls Police Department in Marble Falls, Texas.
So, as a police officer, what can you explain the rank structure that your department has and what your rank is?
Yeah, I've worked for a pretty small department. I'm a patrol officer. You start off as a patrol officer. From there, you can move up to a sergeant or a sergeant in patrol, or you can move over to be a detective. And then there's also a detective sergeant as well. Um, there's 4 patrol sergeants and 1 detective sergeant. I couldn't tell you how many patrol officers we have right now. We're understaffed, like almost every other police agency out there.
Yeah.
But there's 2 detectives, and then above the sergeants is a detective captain, a CID captain, Criminal Investigations Division, and then there's a patrol captain. And then above the captains is the assistant chief, and then above the assistant chief is the chief of police.
Okay. And as a patrol officer, can you describe what your everyday is coming to work and all the way to your getting off your shift?
Yeah. Um, well, we're on a rotating schedule of shift work. We have 12-hour shifts, and right now I'm on day shift for 3 months. And so I start work at 5:45 in the morning, and I work until 6 at night. So my day usually looks like in the morning I get to work. Um, I'm still half asleep, so I drink some caffeine, and then I work on any reports that I have, any criminal reports or warrants or any kind of paperwork that I have that I need to write up. And then at about 9, 10 o'clock, if I haven't already left the office to go answer calls, that's usually whenever I put all my paperwork away and then I go out and start patrolling.
Okay.
And of
And
course,
what
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask the next question.
Oh, and then of course, patrolling is isn't just traffic stops. We're answering calls for service. So people who are wanting to report thefts or report damage or burglaries or all kinds of stuff. Um, so running traffic stops is just like one aspect of the job.
Okay. And you mentioned calls of service. So does yours department respond to any EMS or fire calls if you're nearby, or do y'all strictly respond to police related calls?
Yeah, actually, I got and not to like talk about myself here, but um, if I'm in the area and a medical call drops, specifically cardiac arrest, someone's having a heart attack, if I'm nearby and I can get there first, I'm gonna go there first and start CPR. Um, if it's like someone's tummy hurts and they can't get out of bed, I'm not gonna go to that. Not unless
Yeah.
I'm requested. Um, So I just was just awarded a life-saving award for doing just that. I showed up
Hmm.
to the high school because I was right down the street when someone fell out and wasn't breathing. We gave him CPR and he lived. Um, CPR is not like the movies where you do a couple chest compressions and then they gasp for air and they're back to life.
Yeah.
CPR is very time consuming and it's very physically exhausting on the person given the compressions.
Okay. And what inspired you or what led you to become a police officer?
Um, I think it was I wanted something similar or what I thought would be similar to the military. I was over. I was done with the military. I was ready to get out, but I wanted something with some similar structure. And in a sense, the police force is similar, but it's very different as well. It's actually more different than there's more difference than similarities. Um, I never wanted to be a police officer. I was never that kid growing up that's what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Um, the idea and the job just kind of slid into my lap, and um, I went with it, and I love it. It's a great job.
What would you say is the most challenging aspect of your job as a police officer?
Um, for me personally, the most challenging aspect is um, honestly anything involving children is pretty rough with me, and that's going to be common across the board for a lot of police officers. We could see all kinds of stuff happen to adults, but when it happens to a child, whatever it might be, it hits you a little bit harder. So that one's pretty difficult. Another challenging aspect is juggling your sleep schedule, especially if you're on night shift and you work a couple days here and then you're off for a couple days. If you're like myself, I have a family. I get off of work at 6 in the morning. All I want to do is sleep until 2, 3 in the afternoon, you know, and then get right back up and go back to work at 5:45 in the afternoon. So you have to work-life balances can be pretty stressful sometimes. Um, so it's important that we do our best to remember that when we're off the clock, we're still police officers, but when we're off the clock, it's time for you. It's time for your family.
Okay. Um, what type of training do you go through as a police officer? Like, do you have a basic training type thing? Is there any specific training you go to? Any EMS training or medical training that you go through?
Um, well, so for a lot of local departments, you'll have to go to an academy, an accredited academy. Mine was 6 months long. We did PT and stuff like that. And it was tough. It was very, very challenging academically. But when you go into the academy for somewhere like um, Department of Public Safety, the state troopers, or Austin Police Department, their academies are going to be um, structured differently because they're not tailoring themselves to a bunch of different local agencies. They're tailoring themselves to the officers that they want, if that makes sense. And that's the best way I could
Yeah.
put it. So um, I don't know for sure, but I've heard stories that the State Troopers Academy is very similar to basic training. You have a barracks room, you do PT, a lot of classwork, getting yelled at a lot. So again, it's one of those things that you have to go in um, mentally prepared. And then as far as like other training, we do in-service training every year where we'll brush up on our recertify with our tasers. We'll do our baton training. Um, we'll do CPR training. There is some medical training that we do through a program called Alert.
Mm,
And Alert is going to be a program that is used by police departments nationwide. And it's really targeted for classes on mass shootings or school shootings or, heavy casualty incidents.
mm-hmm.
So there's different classes for that. There's a medical one, there's a basic one, there's a breaching one. I'm an instructor for breaching and for exterior response to active shooters. And then a couple of the other guys that I work with are certified in just your basic level, or they teach the level one portion. Some of them teach the civilian response portion. That's teaching civilians how to um, the the best ways to handle and go about yourself if you're in an active shooting situation, especially if you're an armed civilian.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, of course, there's little classes that we can sign up for that on specific topics that we want to learn as police officers. My favorite thing to learn about is drunk driving.
Mm,
DUI investigations are my go-to. Um, I like all the tactical shooting stuff. That's always fun, but
yeah.
I found that I'm got most of my time on at nighttime, especially in my car, is looking for intoxicated drivers.
Okay. And how would you say that your role as a police officer has evolved from when you first joined the first force to now?
Well, I've been on for a few years now. Um, my role has changed because I'm not the new guy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm actually one of the senior officers, so um, we kind of go back to that word leadership, which we kind of discussed in the military questioning portion of this interview.
Mm-hmm.
Um, leadership isn't a position; it's a it's a thing that we all have and that we all do, whether we know it or not. And leadership is developed. I mean, of course, we have higher supervisors that help develop our leadership, um, but leadership is also developed from the ground up as well. So my roles have kind of changed over the years that I've been there. I train officers when they come in. I'm a field training officer. Um, so going from being a trainee to being a brand new officer on probation to being a regular officer with just my own responsibilities, and then now I'm a training officer, so I'm responsible for what my trainee does as well. Um, I'm looking to be promoted to sergeant here soon, hopefully, if that goes well. So it's just, you know, we got to want to continue to better ourselves. So we have to put forth that effort as ourselves. You know what I mean? It's not just going to get
Mm-hmm.
handed to you.
Okay. And what I asked this question about your experience in the military. So if there is any, what would you say is one misconception that you had before joining the police force or that civilians have about police officers?
Um, being a police officer is kind of what I thought it was going to be. Um, I had a pretty good idea of what the job was like. And it turns out I was right. I mean, I had no idea. I just was guessing, and it's about what I expected it to be. Um, I mean, well, there's a lot of misconceptions about police officers in
Yeah.
the eyes of civilians. Um, you know, it is not our favorite thing to wrestle someone to the ground and put them in handcuffs and take them to jail. Actually, taking people to jail is the least favorite part of my job. I don't like it. And any officer that does enjoy taking someone to jail, I mean, they might enjoy the aspect of of crime fighting, or making the community safer. Um, but I don't know. I don't know every officer, and I can't say what they do and don't enjoy. But I know for me, I don't enjoy those, taking someone to jail. I don't enjoy um, fighting someone until they comply. Um, I enjoy going out and helping people. I enjoy working mental health calls. Those are some of the toughest ones you can do. You have to have a lot of patience dealing with someone that's going through a mental health episode. Um, so I guess the main misconception is we're a bunch of big meanies. And in reality, we just, some of us are the nicest guys ever, and we just want to help people and talk.
Yeah. Okay. And what would you say is sort of your tactic for building trust and community with trust and relationships with the community that you serve?
Oh man, that kind of goes into that's really going to depend on what kind of officer you want to be. Um, Community policing to me is just comes natural. I I know a lot of people in my community. Um, I'm blessed to have a family that knows a lot of people in the community. Um, it's just it shouldn't be something that you have to try hard at to community police. Some officers don't like talking to people, so they're not going to be the best at community policing. And you know what? We need those officers too. That not everyone has to um, put on a great big smile every day and shake shake hands and kiss babies, but um, I enjoy it. I like talking to people and making people laugh and learning things about people. Actually, last school year, I was the school resource officer for our middle school,
Mm, mm-hmm.
and so that did a lot of good for me as far as community policing goes. I've got a lot of contacts and resources from doing that job, and although I had to come back to the street to continue to improve myself, I really miss it. The school was fun. The kids were great. Um, the hours were nice. So it's pretty good.
Okay. And what can you tell us some of the technology that you use um yourself as a patrol officer, and maybe how technology has evolved in the policing field?
Yeah. Um, well, it's all going to kind of depend on what kind of department you work for.
Yeah.
Um, I'm lucky to work for a department that has took the time and spent the money on every car having computers that has a what we call a CAD system, and that
Mm-hmm.
allows us to run license plates. Whenever we get driver's licenses from the drivers, we can scan it through our computer. Um, there's a lot of agencies out there still in Texas that don't have that. They still have to rely on their radio and their dispatchers, who are in a room somewhere with computers to get that information when I can just get it in a couple seconds. Um, so that's nice. And of course, like DPS, the state troopers, they're going to have the most advanced equipment out there
Yeah.
because it's a state funded uh, job. And different cities, if you work for a city that's very, very small and not a lot of money goes through there, you're probably not going to have a lot of awesome equipment. um, but you work for a big city, you might.
Okay. Um, how would you say that, uh, I know we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but how would you say that police officers work with other emergency responders like paramedics and firefighters?
Well, there's always jokes about between cops and firefighters. There's always that rivalry that goes on. Um, we work very, very well with our other first responders. We have a great relationship with our firefighters. We have a great relationship with our EMS personnel. There's times that we all have to work together, like on big car accidents. If there is a major incident where there's like a bad injury or the potential about to be a bad injury,
Hmm.
the fire and EMS personnel will stage somewhere like down the street while the officers go in and handle it, and then call them in whenever they're ready for them to come in. Um, but the biggest one we work on altogether is car accidents, and we do those a lot. Um, so we've kind of got a system down that that helps out. Fire guys will be the ones to pull people out of cars if they're stuck in there. They'll be the ones to block traffic while the officers are doing the boring part of the job, like getting the license plates and all the driver's licenses and all the paperwork. And then of course EMS shows up and they're immediately doing all the medical assessments. So it's a nice little system we got.
Okay. And so, you mentioned earlier being a trainee to being a normal officer and then being an FTO. Um, what does your patrol car look like as a by yourself officer versus as a FTO having that trainee with you? Does it change? Does it stay the same?
It stays the same for the most part. I liked having, when I'm driving and I'm in my car by myself, I like having stuff on my passenger seat, like my tactical vest. Um, I'll have like a medical bag stuck to my headrest. Um, and then, of course, maybe if I'm driving to a call or something, a dangerous one, I'll pull my rifle out of the rack and I'll lay it down on my passenger seat. I can't do that when I have someone in the car with me, or if I'm driving or he's driving, he or she's driving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it doesn't change much except the passenger seat gets taken up. Um, and as much as I love training people and you know I love working with people and I love talking to people, but riding around for 12 hours a day with the same person for 2 months it gets pretty old pretty fast.
Um, what what would you say are some main things or some of the main equipment that you carry in your vehicle in the back or in your front seat area?
Um, well, I have my rifle and my shotgun. They're mounted in a rack that's in between the passenger and the driver's seat, like right behind. Um, I have of course, my radio and my computer dock is right there in between the passenger seat and the driver's seat. Uh, I usually have an extra tourniquet I have one right here actually. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a tourniquet on me. I'll have an extra one or two on each side of the doors. Um, I'll have uh, my emergency vest, my reflector vest for if I'm at an accident and I'm on the roadway, I'm putting that vest on. Um, and then of course when I have the car to myself, I'll have my med bag in the seat. I'll have my heavy plate tactical vest next to me on the seat. Um, and then occasionally, like I said, I'll pull my rifle out and I'll have it leaned up against my passenger seat in case I need to just grab it and go.
Okay. And we talked about the equipment that you carry in your car. Does your uh what do you carry on your person as a police officer?
Um, so on my belt, we don't have anything on our vest. We just have plain plain vests. Our body cams are actually it's a cell phone that slides
Mm.
inside the vest, and there's a little glass circle where the camera is. So we don't have like the big black square like you'll
Yeah.
see police officers have. You don't even see our camera, but it's on. Um, we have our pistol. We have a Glock 22.
Mm.
It's a 45 caliber pistol. Um, we have a collapsible ASP baton. Um, you uh, bust it out if you need protection for yourself. I've never used it on anybody. Um, I've pulled it out to protect myself from dogs. Luckily, I didn't have to use it, but I have busted out many windows with it on emergency calls. Um, I have my taser. Um, then I have two sets of handcuffs. I have my radio, and I have a magazine holster. It's got two magazines for my pistol in there, and then I always have a tourniquet on me.
Okay. And you mentioned mentioned the Glock as your handgun. What other weapons do you carry uh as a police officer?
Well, you're gonna carry an AR-15 style rifle inside the car. We have Mossberg 590 shotguns, pump shotguns.
Hmm.
Um, I I have the option to carry a secondary pistol on me. I usually keep it in the car somewhere, if at all. I have a little excuse me. I have a little Glock 42. That's a 380. It's a nice little tiny gun. Um, and then besides the baton and the taser, that's the only weapons that we're carrying. I did carry for a little while. I can't find it. I thought I had it over here, but it looks like a pen. So you put it in your vest pocket, like it looks like it just any other pen. But when you pull it out, it's got like a small, very very sharp tungsten tip on it, and
Mm.
you can use that for self protection if at a last resort you can't get anything on your belt, you could pull that out and just protect yourself with
Okay. And you mentioned how the state trooper or how certain departments will have to rely on their dispatchers to get certain information. As
Yeah.
a as a small city-oriented police department, how does your dispatching work?
So our Marble Falls is the biggest city in our county. It's the busiest city in our county. So our dispatchers are also very busy. They dispatch for Marble Falls. They dispatch for the city of Burnett. They dispatch for the city of Cottonwood, the city of Horseshoe Bay, the city of Granite Shoals, and that's it. But they dispatch for police, fire, and EMS for all of
Mm.
those cities. Um, so it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
they're pretty much the besides the sheriff's department who has their own dispatch. Marble Falls Dispatch is the main hub for communications.
Okay. And the last question, do you have any tips or things that people should know uh coming into or becoming a police officer?
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a police officer, um, if you're old enough or if you have consent from a parent, definitely go on a ride along. Ask questions. Ask police officers some questions. If you see a random police officer out and you want to know about something or what, ask them what they like about the job. What they say is might be completely different from what I say. Um, and like the army or like the military, keep an open mind because there's a lot of different aspects to the job, and that's why I like it. Not every day is the same. You know, I'm not getting up and I'm not going to sit at a desk and type numbers in for 8 hours a day doing the same thing. It's different. So you have to stay mentally fit. You have to stay physically fit. And of course, that's a tip going into the academy as well.
Okay. Well, that's gonna be the last question that we have. Thank you, Kevin, for coming out and talking about your police experience. For everyone who's watching, make sure to go down into the description. I will make sure to put a link uh, to Marble Falls Police Department. You can go check out their website, all the stuff that they have on there, as well as I will have a link to the Medical Gear Outfitters, as well as the Refuge Medical affiliate links and the merch. And so with that, we're going to end our video, and make sure to go check out the other interview with Kevin from his military experience in the Army. And with that, we're going to end it.